Greetings and welcome to the Headhunter Show with me, Laban Cliff, coming to you from Coffee Africa. We continue with the conversations with, of course, thought leaders and enable you to get headhunted. Now, we've done something that we've not done before on this program, which is, of course, have a part two of the show where we've had really great insights from one of our panelists and a man who you'd say HR folks especially look up to. He's Paul Kasimu, who's a HR guru in Kenya and around Africa. Here is some of the highlights of the conversations we had in part one of the show. Key lesson in your time at the airline and maybe what you'll tell managers now.
The decisions you make today may not be visible immediately. They will show up about 3 years later. Most leaders don't know the difference between coaching and telling. And when you tell, then you're perhaps giving somebody at best a piece of fish, if not the whole fish. But when you coach, you start helping people to know how to fish and how to deal with different situations.
Yep, those are the highlights, and you have his profile, and of course, take a look at his LinkedIn page as well. Paul Matete Kasimu.
Yes, sir.
You know, one man who moves from Barclays, moves from Kenya Airways, moves to EABL, and moves to Safaricom. These are top-tier organizations, not only in Kenya, but enviable employers, I must say. And of course, LinkedIn has released the top 22 companies to work for. And of course, everyone is just looking at, okay, wait a minute. And somehow, you or the shareholders or people who are linked to these companies feature on this list. My guess is it's maybe because of the learnings, because of the works that you've done across all these employers that got you to Safaricom. My guess. The other guess is maybe because your boss worked with you at Diageo, for instance. But let's face it, how did you get yourself to Safaricom?
So I'd done 6 years at EABL, and I was actually also asking myself, what's next? And after a period like that, you ask, are you adding value here, or is there something else you could do? And then I got a call from Vodafone at the time, and I managed to meet the late Bob Collymore, may his soul rest in peace, and they were looking for an HR lead. And what was actually exciting was I had done banking. Initially, I actually did a stint with public sector, Office of the President.
Can talk about it as well.
Yeah, I did airline,
Yeah.
FMCG manufacturing, and then telecoms. And I was like, I don't understand telecoms. But my belief is, again, people are people. Talent is talent. And the power of just mindset. And I said, why not? So I thought it was a good challenge. But the bigger piece, and that's what made me really excited and humbled to join the Safaricom team, was the power of purpose. And I met then, when I spoke to Bobby, he brought purpose to life. Before I joined from EABL, I used to say my purpose was to inspire the possibilities in others. I came in and I found everything that happened at Safaricom was purpose-led. And the philosophy of people, no, first purpose, people before profit. Purpose, people before profit. If you take care of your purpose, if you are addressing a social need, a need in the society, if you put your people at the front and center of everything you do, profits come naturally. And I saw somebody who was not just talking, he was walking the talk. And that just wowed me. And for the 2 years I was fortunate to work with Bob, it was bringing to life. When you meet Mike or Joseph, he will tell you the story of M-Pesa. And it came in to drive another need, a social need. And you can only see it, for instance, if you go to, let's say, one of the camps, refugee camps, where a father or the head of a household previously used to queue with the wife or with the spouse and the kids. And it lowered the dignity of that individual to a point where with M-Pesa he can get the cash transfer and he can boldly tell the family, let's go for shopping. So for me, that dignity is something you cannot just say it's a profit-led. So I think purpose is big at Safaricom, and our belief is everything we do is purpose-led. Right now we've called out, and I'm fast forwarding, we are looking at being a purpose-led technology company by 2025. And what that means is that beyond telco, can we reimagine ourselves, so in terms of the products, in terms of the services, but also our ways of working. Purpose, people before profit. And I think the bigger conversation there is, now within fourth industrial revolution comes COVID. But shortly before COVID, we were looking at remote working. How can we enable people through technology to deliver from any place? When COVID came to being, then we witnessed a case where up to about 100% at one point of people are working remotely. But what has emerged is around reimagining work. And one of the things we've looked at is how do you establish small, empowered, cross-functional teams to deliver an outcome? And that is the essence of what you call a small squad. And then several squads running with certain outcomes can become what you call a tribe, and that's the agile ways of working. And we discovered if you brought a product owner, somebody who is working in business, you brought a development engineer, you brought a data scientist, you brought somebody a coach, looking at an issue, that team, empowered, drives speed, productivity, experimentation, innovation. So it became a no-brainer when we said, how do we embrace agile ways of working? So empowered teams, an outcome. And what we found also is that if you look at now work, you find simplification of processes, automation, digitization. So you're seeing now emerging chatbots that will come in and replace or even answer you and deal with you. We are looking now at big data, machine learning, integrating machine and human being, and that coexistence is coming in the workplace. I think that's something that we will see more of in the years to come.
My worry with this is, how do you get your employees and your people infused into the future and how the future is going to look like? Because I'd feel like you have it all together in terms of this is where we're going to be in 10 years. But maybe somebody within your organization is still thinking we're a mobile phone company, we're still, a mobile, how can I say, mobile operator. I'll just say, or a telco. That's it. And you have M-Pesa. But how do you ensure that your people have that speed?
I would say it's mindset, skill set, tool sets. And it's also disrupting yourself before you are disrupted. And the bigger piece is, if you look at, and there's a small book I normally tell people to read, and it's almost dated, but Who Moved My Cheese? Oh, yeah. If you don't drive a mindset of what would happen if there was a disruption, then you will have a problem in your hands. Look at the taxi drivers and Uber at one point. B&B, if you look at Netflix, before people would say, let's go to the cinema hall. People still go, but the competition can come from nowhere. If you told the banks that there will be M-Pesa playing in the way we are playing now, people would have said you are crazy. So I think it's a case of also reimagining and saying, how do you then become a lifestyle partner to individuals and businesses going forward? And once you do that, then you find the only constant is reimagining yourself. So I think you can't just say your income will come from calls and SMSs or texts. We are seeing now emerging products coming in. And that, I think, is a piece where you come in and you look at how do you reskill your talent for the future. And we've had to revisit how we then prepare our people to be relevant going forward. So when you say, why would you even change? The point is, if you don't, you will find you are irrelevant going forward.
So here goes. I mean, how many CVs do you get per day of people wanting to work at Safaricom? Average.
So now this is another bit of reimagining work. Yeah. You find the way we recruit has changed dramatically. So I don't get any CVs. Yes. So we've created a portal where people just throw in their CVs, their profiles. Yeah. Once you create your profile, we can actually proactively get in touch with you based on your CV. Yeah. We are looking at also potentially saying, actually the initial, let's say 50% of resourcing is automated.
Have you got into a level where you don't need a degree to employ?
I would say, what is a degree? Because what we are now looking for are crafts. When you look at how we look at people like in an agile work, you will find you now reward talent based on their craftsmanship. If you look at, if I can make it simpler, if you look at a cook, you can have a cook who can do a meal for themselves very miserably. Yeah. There are others who can do it at the point of the family. There are others who can host a bunch of friends and prepare some great one. Yeah. But there are others who can do actually professional catering for a wedding, for something. And then there are people who can develop recipes.
You know, I'm saying that. It's
the Ramses of this world.
Oh, yeah, the Ramses. Mm. Oh, that's interesting.
So that's a piece where you say, if it's a data scientist, if it's a software engineer, if it's an HR person, you start saying, how do you move from associate to practitioner, to professional, to expert, to master? And that is now the journey where you're saying, in there's no degree. It's about the skills that you develop along the way.
I mean, because people throw so much efforts. I mean, I got a first class. Why am I not being employed? And then you go in there, you know, talk about telco to technology company, and you're seeing that all you need is people who can deliver, thinkers, doers. For instance, I don't know how that.
There's something we're actually going into, because if you look at the future of work, we are now seeing emerging skill sets. Yeah. And one of the things we want to do in line with our purpose is to see whether we can partner with like-minded organizations, big tech companies, yourselves, universities, colleges, to start growing certain skills for the future. And we would want to have, in fact, we are calling it out to say, we would want to have 1,000 fintech talent. And that's about skills. So coding, cloud, software engineers, the developers, machine learning. If you can, and that's about doing. Remember, that 70% of your growth comes from doing. If we can grow such talent for the future, then you'll discover the degree is not a requirement for any job.
What next for Paul Kasimu? Surely, after Safaricom, you're at the apex.
No, they're amazing HR leaders in this country. And even better still is a pipeline of what we see coming. In 2012, I was the chair of the Institute of HR Management, and I worked with others who had a vision of saying, how do we build HR professionals in the country? I think what is emerging is, obviously, as I said earlier on, talent has a shelf life. And after a while, you'll need to also let others come through and do their bit. But I would actually want to go into, how do you grow leaders of the future? There is something I'm pursuing, and my research will be around what are some of the planned and unplanned triggers that grow leaders, effective leaders. And if I can do that, then I would see myself doing more of just fireside chats, perhaps running some programs around how to grow leaders, mentoring, and giving back to society, because I'm a product of society, and people took great risks with me.
Paul, I will not want to let you go. I hope you're considering writing a book about your HR journey.
I actually started writing my memoir or a book. And this is how I envisaged it. I imagined 15 graduates. I took 5 who left the university the same day. And they went different directions. And they met 15 years later. And they were giving their testimony. And the biggest point I want to make is the first person you work for has the biggest impact on who you become. And the role of a line manager and a mentor is huge in growing talent and bringing out the best in people. Mahatma Gandhi said the greatest legacy is to enable others to be the best they can be. And I have a hypothesis that says you are as good as the people you work for and with. So yeah, that is coming. But most importantly is a publication I will make not far away from today around.
Can we be the first to announce it on KTN?
No problem. Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Exclusive only on the Headhunter. Stay tuned. When we come back, leadership lessons, insights, and things you need to make sure that you do not miss out on as a leader. Stay tuned. All right, so quick fire questions to one Paul Kasimu. You followed us through from part 1 and now part 2 of his journey and his leadership lessons. Here goes. I asked him, number 1, what next for him? Wants to write a book. People are actually doing farming. You don't think about farming maybe? Do farming maybe after?
I had one boss, Titus, who told me, Paul, the problem most people have is after retirement of leaving corporate world, thinking they can start opening a butchery when they don't even know how to cut meat. So just do the things you are good at and forget trying to be confused
maybe I can
in
throw
life.
something into your spanner. You thought about consulting and mentoring, and I don't know, I feel the insights you have, apart from the book, I feel like you could do well in terms of just going in and speaking to executives about the issues they're grappling with.
And that will be my piece around, especially coaching. Coaching is my passion.
Yeah.
Not trained only, but also gone through amazing coaches. And I would want to coach potentially future leaders.
Yeah.
We actually have a shortage of CEOs in the country or executives. I'll say if you look at succession, like even in HR, in corporate life, there are a lot of musical chairs. So people moving from one organization to another to another.
I was coming to that.
And they say,
by the way, it's very, very appalling, I must say. It's like, where are the other people?
And that's the point. That's the point. And they're there.
Yeah.
So it's more of how do you start helping organizations to address that issue of succession in their companies. Most importantly, how do you enable people to grow to their fullest? I think that will be my calling and the coaching series.
Yeah. Where do you feel there's that musical chairs, apart from shortage of talent, let's call it that way, or shortage of leaders, let's put that, because talent can be at any one level. Could it be that also organizations are afraid of trying out different ideas, for instance, from the quote norm?
I think leaders have their seasons. And part of it is also where you say, when is the best time to leave? And they say, leave when the applause is at its loudest. So there's a piece where even as individual leaders, you'll say, I come in here, this is what I want to create with the team. And afterwards, it's just let somebody else take the organization to another level. So there's that part. Yeah. But there's also another piece where you find it is experiences you have that can also grow you. Actually, as a CEO, and this is one thing I've picked, If you want to be a CEO in any organization, you need to have done a minimum of 3 functional areas, whether it's sales, finance, operations, HR. If you have one person who is deep in one area, that for me is not necessarily the leader you're looking for. The second piece is also experiences in different sectors, different industries, different geographies. That's what makes leaders relevant, especially in a VUCA world where the world is volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. So I think it's a combination of all at individual level, organizational level. But it doesn't also take away what you say, that we don't invest heavily in growing leadership as organizations.
So you want to tell me that all these corporate executives who are angling for the CEO's position, not most, if not all of them, are cut for those positions?
On the converse, I say you'll be surprised at the genius of some of the people that you assume internally. Given a chance. Because most organizations rarely take risks with their internal talent. And sometimes you think external will be better. So the mix is important so that you don't become a closed system. But then you need to have a conscious way of growing your talent and growing leaders from within. There are some organizations that are brilliant at it. There are others who are predisposed to do. If you have the muscle to do that, give people different experiences, then you end up with amazing leaders.
Who's the next Paul Kasimu at Safaricom?
I have about 3 that could do my job tomorrow. And what I think we do is, how do you give them the right skills and exposure? And externally, I also look back and I say, I've been fortunate to work with amazing talent. Over 12 of them actually are running HR in their different organizations. So I look back and I say, fortunate enough to have seen talent grow, and some even outgrow me.
Paul, it's sad to come to a tail end of this conversation because you and I will say that this should really go on and have a deeper insight onto it. And mine at this point is really to encapsulate all that. You've done well for yourself, I believe, and of course our audience would agree with that. You're at a level where people look up to you, people look up to the organizations you've worked for. I just ask you at a personal level, how does this make you feel about yourself, your family, your career, with all this journey and stuff? And maybe what are some of the lessons, not only corporate, but also at a personal level, that you've learned over time, and your advice to our audience?
If you ask me, if you look at any person that you meet, there are a few things that I say make people. The first of those will be themselves, obviously, the mindset they bring in. I'm a hopeless optimist, that when things are rough, I say, what can go wrong? Or better still, every dark cloud has a silver lining. And that mindset helps me, even at the lowest of moments, I still remain positive. Number 2 is family. I think the more supportive your family is, the more you'll be grounded at work, anywhere, because you need that safe haven where you go in and you can be yourself. You can be vulnerable, but you can be supported. And I think I've been hugely positive, fortunate and blessed from that point. Number 3 is the line managers you've had. I've actually been absolutely fortunate, where I got leaders who saw something in me when I didn't even say it. And that has been a learning for me to say, there are people who take chances and they walk with you, but they give you the tools that go with the calling of the role. And then the 4th one is about the people you work for. I'll tell you, there are moments where you find you get people who are better than you in certain aspects of the role, and you go far. But most importantly is also when you can call on the team to own the outcomes and not you. So for me, it has never been Paul Kasimu. It has been, I've worked with amazing teams. And there was one team we worked with in one of the organizations, an HR team, and we used to say, we were cooking with gas, not with firewood. There was no smoke. Everything was just smooth. And finally, I think there's a God that sometimes grants you things you don't deserve. So I'm hugely fortunate from that front.
Paul Kasimu, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Pleasure, yeah.
And to many more,
Thank you.
I hope and pray I know we are standing and of course the cameras are all on us, but this has been a great discussion, a first of many to come. He's not told us about the news we're going to break on the headhunter, but we're going to call him back of something he's working on and an inspiring story again that we're going to listen to him and we're going to get out of it. Thank you so much for being here. And we really appreciate it and wish you the very best in your career and to many more.
Thank you. Same to you and all the best. Great stuff you're doing here.
Thank you very much. That has been Paul Kasimu, only on The Headhunter. Please stay tuned. We'd love to hear your feedback on our social media platforms. Please get in touch with us. And of course, don't go anywhere else. How do you get yourself on the Hunters list? Stay tuned.